Welcome to the Fantasy Sanctuary. We're going to talk training camp news, our favorite tidbits of news, cover some ADP movement, and draft a banging hell of a good time Best Ball Mania team. Let's just get right into it, folks. How's it going, Tom? How you doing?
Just rusty, all out of sorts today. That's my fault. I hit the intro music as you hit the intro music. Like I should have known you had it, Tyler. But like,
it's all good. We're too fast. We're too coordinated. How you doing?
I'm good. Like, I mean, it's football is back. Feels like the 100th time that we get to say that in about the last hour or two. But like, yeah, I mean, training camp's just coming thick and fast at the minute, and it's fun. Like, these are the points where you take your stands, you make your decisions. It's like, what are we going to do between here and draft season there's 38 days or something left to draft. Who are you going to take a stand on? Which exposures do you want to smooth out? Like, just love this time of year. I mean, how are you doing, Tyler? Been grafting the news hard today?
Yeah, I am a news hound at heart and an ADP value hound second. So right now, yeah, I'm just trying to gobble up all of the news because it's all coming out very fast. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. And frankly, it's not just taking it all in, but it's also contextualizing it. What is actually news? What is being reported that we should have had safe assumptions on? What are safe assumptions that we've had that we should be questioning? A lot of that stuff coming out today. We got Hall of Fame game Thursday. Yeah, it's good. I thrive in this stuff because, I've been trying to new sound since day one, and now we finally get pads on where stuff matters. Like, no more one-on-one drill against air crap. I don't care that somebody got mossed because it's a wide receiver drill and he should be doing that, or the corner. Yeah, I don't care about that stuff. They're doing installs, they're doing design stuff. That's the point. Now that the pads come on and it feels real, the coaches are going to start, putting shit to the fire. I can't wait. This is great.
So what's been your favorite piece of camp hype so far?
I mean, I'd have to say that, like, personally, I've got plenty of him. So Lad McConkey bags packed and ready, and I'm going to keep drafting. And it's been very, very obvious that, like, anytime the starting, squad is out there, no matter what package, he and Herbert are just linked up, So the bull case for Lad was that despite the, limited collegiate sample, he produced very nicely, very efficiently, Puka-esque, if you will. Like, not a ton of work, but when he's out there, he was very impressive alongside, the Brock Bowers of the worlds taken in the first round. And he's drafted to a wide open depth chart. And so far, a bunch of those Jags have been very Jag-esque. DJ Chark out there running with the ones, QJ struggling, fighting for his life to get with the ones right now. So if his competition is Josh Palmer, who's just a guy, kind of a speed guy, who's going to do that short, intermediate Keenan Allen stuff? It's Lad. And I know Greg Roman and all of that good stuff, but like, he's all set up for like what, a 26, 28% target share, like at the ceiling. And it was just kind of nice because I got some comments over the weekend, like, yeah, he can be a PPR scam, but I don't know that he matters. And then, like, right as I'm reading that comment, he catches a touchdown pass in a scramble drill in 11 all 11s from Herbert for 18 yards. And I'm like, there we go. And it was in traffic. It's not like a, shift Cole Beasley wide open thing. It was like working through traffic, small boy caught a touchdown because he's built like Percy Harvin. He's built like Chris Olave. He's built just like Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I'm very excited how this has shifted, especially with the running backs, like J.K. Dobbins running first in the drills ahead of Gus and Vidal. It just seems like they have really dusty running backs, and they might want to run, and it might not be that effective. And to me, that's Lad McConkey music. So that's been my favorite piece of camp news. Is he's been just building on coming in as like a superior route runner with awesome athleticism.
I do like it, and it's definitely made me think I probably need more Lad McConkey than I've got. I didn't do any pre-draft contests, obviously being locked out myself on over here in the UK. But the one thing that it's kind of been tricky to gauge, where is Lad McConkey's ceiling at times? And am I drafting him at his ceiling? Are we going to get a dip? but I think you're probably on the right side of it because we're definitely not going to get much in the way of a dip now unless we suddenly trade for Brandon Ayuk or something.
Yeah, the
My
only guy kind of slipping past is like what Brian Thomas now, right? Kind of like right there with
yeah,
him, but now he's kind of slipping.
I think my favorite is probably the Malik Neighbors stuff because so much of what the Giants are going to do and how good they can be fantasy rests on how good Malik Neighbors is. You know, I like Devin Singletary at his cost and take him plenty. I think Daniel Jones at his cost is kind of fine. But if Malik Neighbors is the absolute dog that we're seeing in all these Twitter highlight clips, then I mean, the Giants can be fun. Yes, there's nobody else. So, of course, Malik Neighbors is going to get the ball a ton in training camp, but everything he's doing just looks excellent. And I feel I had him as a top 2-round talent when I first did my rankings before sort of like people shied away from it a bit. He started slipping into the third. But for me, every draft I've been in, if I can get Malik Neighbors around that 2-3 turn, I'm absolutely good for it. Kevin, the chat. Kevin will be joining us next Monday. Very much looking forward to having him join us. So we are in BBM drafting tonight. We've done what, like 15, 16 of these now, Tyler? We're
I
racking
think
them up.
this is number 14, if I'm keeping track correctly.
So picking up the 6th spot. It's been a while since we've had an early pick, but I'll take that, take that. Have you seen any kind of movement much on Justin Jefferson with bits of stuff from camp? It sounds like Sam Darnold's been throwing bombs at every opportunity, apparently. There's been less positive buzz about JJ McCarthy. Obviously, we know the Jordan Addison situation. We know the TJ Hawkinson situation. Any kind of movement on Justin Jefferson for you?
I mean, ADP wise, not that I've seen. He's still like every once in a while in like a badgeless draft, he may fall 2-3 spots past ADP for like the running backs or like whoever their favorite guy is. But for the most part, no. The only spot I see him kind of falling is on drafters, where it's like season long and there's concerns about Darnold and the rookie. But in Ball Mania and these underdog like week 17 payout tournaments, no, not really much movement. I'm kind of, I think any Addison fund that would have boosted him up has kind of been quelled. Like he's sliding a little bit, but it's not like Jefferson. People that were drafting Jefferson heavy, like we did last week, to take the excuse to draft him over Chase, are going to keep doing that. But I don't see that at large happening. And Addison may not get suspended, like much like with Rice. The more quiet you hear, the less likely it is he gets suspended. Jefferson goes. What you feeling like, Tom?
Well, let's stick with Amon-Ra unless you wanna go with the running backs. I'm fine with Amon-Ra.
I kind of want to take one of the running backs, maybe Brees. I don't take
Let's
Brees
take
as
Brees.
much.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I've got plenty of Bijan, but not enough Brees, so I'm down with that.
My little bit of Giga Brain that I still like to do is week 17, they play outside versus San Francisco. And Goff and Amon-Ra tend to suffer in that type of environment with Goff, tiny hands, pressure, outdoors. There's like a little bit of a dip and quite a bit of a dip for Goff, a little bit of a dip for Amon-Ra as like, expected fantasy points for both. And it's not like we can presume a lot of things, but we know for a fact his splits outside are poor. And we know for a fact and that's like his entire career. And we also know that JMO is just building. You talk about a guy that's like, it's not new,
Yeah,
but JMO's consistently positive coach speak, positive camp. He's making some snags in camp. JMO's pushing for this secondary role. So the explosive play aspect that's kind of been missing from this offense from in the passing game that would go to Amon-Ra could potentially swing a little bit more towards JMO and Laporta. So I don't mind. I love Amon-Ra, and I was in on him as a rookie as like, hey, simplistically speaking, Goff like slot receivers. He's free. He looked good in college. I had him on a bunch of my dynasty leagues. Let me take this guy. And then going into his second year, I thought he was poorly mispriced as like a fluky gadget guy. I chased him from the 6th all the way into the 4th round, had like 40% of him across all my drafts. And I had just as much last year as like it's not just safe. He's like awesome. Now that he's a top 6-7 pick, I have a hard time stomaching taking him over these elite running backs who could have legendary seasons because ceiling to ceiling, Breece Hall's got a 40-point ceiling in his repertoire. Amon-Ra, not so much. So that's where I'm like, it's tough.
Yeah, Amon-Ra, like over on DraftKings, is such an easy click because the amount of games where he has like 10 receptions or 100
Right.
yards,
PPR,
they
yeah.
really count with the 3 point bonuses as well. But here on Underdog, definitely with you on that. Kyron Williams goes at the 14 spot to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs. Interesting. We are 2 picks away. We're going to be looking at wide receiver here, Tyler, aren't we? We're not feeling a dual
Quite,
running back start.
quite indeed. I'm okay doing a dual running back start. Doesn't have to be in the second round, though. I quite like the third round running backs more than the second round running backs.
Yeah, and I mean, who would we be looking here? Saquon Barkley. I'm not in on Saquon Barkley. So what? Nico, Debo, Devontae, Waddle. For me, it's Waddle, Debo, Nico.
Okay. Ouch. You had to put Nico last. That hurts. Oh, we have.
Well, no, I'd take any of them. Like I was just working up. Like I'm
Sure,
good with
sure.
Nico. I mean, Stephon Diggs is supposed to be wide receiver 1 in Houston, according to reports out today. But
Well, considering we get a slight dip in ADP, I like taking grown ass man Nico. Seemingly better peripherals earlier in his career for like ceiling outcomes. And if we're playing like this, week 17 is all that matters. Diggs, 1 year contract, aging guy. He's been super, super healthy, but like we can explain away a lot of his issues. But I can also say that what if explaining away all his issues isn't the correct move? And then who's the main beneficiary of that? And then you could say, well, in healthy games, the tank, yada. I understand all that. Also, on the flip side, what happens when Nico, who was just handed a big bag himself, first and foremost, um, is the main beneficiary of building on that like primary target, yak, and deep threat, like all 3 levels. He was effective, super effective, like elite against man, awesome against zone. What happens when he builds off of that as the main beneficiary of this offense with CJ Stroud in this offense taking another step, pass rate wise, pass efficiency wise? Like what happens then, right? So I'm very in best ball. I want to attack awesome offenses. I want to attack young, talented players. And, and at that point, I want to put my chips there because chaos of a 17 season. But yeah, I like all those guys you listed. I probably prefer the younger versions. I think I prefer Adams when I've already taken a first round receiver because we talked about like I kind of feel like I have to drag him to the finals given his
yeah,
situation.
absolutely.
Nico's a guy that could just take another step and just be the alpha in this offense, especially considering his role. We've assumed he'd still be like the primary deep target guy, and thus far in camp, that's been the case. So we're back here on the clock. I'm assuming we go receiver here, Tom.
Yeah, I'd think so, unless you want to go Derrick Henry for some week 17 correlation. I mean, I'm fine with Cup, Diggs, or Dell. I mean, all of those works.
I'm good with Cup or Diggs. Do you have a lean either way?
Well, let's go with Diggs and build out some Texan
Fun.
stacks,
I like it. Now we don't have to be right. We just take both.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best ball way out.
It's
Before
true.
we carry on though, gotta do a little housekeeping here. We do have a giveaway going on at the minute. All you've got to do, simply subscribe, leave comments on videos. You can leave comments on as many videos as you want, and each one gets you an entry into the draw where we are giving away $100 in cold hard cash, 12 months free membership to all our premium content. That's Rich's Dynasty content, his trade value calculator, weekly rankings in season, all my DFS content, which is some people have called it long-winded. I like to call it comprehensive. $25 voucher for merchandise from our store. Loads of stuff. We are closing in on 3,000 subscribers. The haters said we couldn't do it, but we are going to do it before the season because fuck the haters. Sitting here tonight at what? 2,662 subscribers. Let's hit 2,700 tonight.
Hell yeah, boys. You know what, Tom? In this household of Fantasy Sanctuary, we know how to finish. And we're going to finish strong and we're going to finish hard.
Damn right. Loads more good content coming your way over the next few weeks as well. So Pacheco goes off after Derrick Henry. It feels like, a kind of fairly normal room, the Kyron Williams pull to the 14th spot apart from that. But do you feel like the rooms are getting more casual at this point? Like I kind of ping pong back and forth. Like there's days where it feels like particularly crazy and particularly casual, and then other days where it just feels completely normal still.
I think that's just the first waves, right? Like we see alone, there's what, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half this room has no badge. And that's not saying there are sharp people that just don't do a lot of volume underdog or volume in general. They just go after like high end, high buy-ins. That said, typically what you're going to see, Underdog dropped another YouTube influencer tournament about 2 weeks ago, the MMG tournament that just hit slows only because it's nearly full. I think that's brought in a new crowd, but I think it's late July. People are starting to kind of sniff around mock drafts. Underdog's running ads all the time. DraftKings is running ads all the time. They got big names pushing it. So I think this is like the first wave of casuals. They come in, they see. I will say though, I'm seeing sharper waves of casuals this early on. I think if they're snooping around here, they're plugging into all the content we have. Like I'm seeing more stacking, more correlating, more roster construction. So I think even your general casual is drafting a little bit sharper than maybe years past. But yes, I think you're seeing the drippings of it. I think you're going to see a lot more of it as we're like, when the preseason starts, it starts picking up. All right, we're looking at George Pickens a little after ADP, T Higgins right at ADP. What you thinking? What you feeling?
I'd lean to T Higgins, but if you want to go Pickens, I don't hate it. I just find it a hard click.
I don't love it, but we'll do T. We'll do T. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I can't sit here and say I like to chase young, exciting players and good offenses and then take Arthur Smith's wide receiver 1, can I?
Yeah, it's just like, and I can't make up my mind what's better for George Pickens, whether it's Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or whether he could be QB proof from either of them. But you look
I
at
have an
Arthur
answer.
Smith.
I think it's a new head coach or a new OC. I don't think it's the QB.
I mean, everything you see from them, they built an offensive line that's about running the ball. Arthur Smith, no wide receivers had more than like 115, 120 targets ever under
I
him.
think it's 115. I think that's the ceiling. At least it was the last 2 years.
Yeah. And maybe it was Leg Up who were talking about it last week, or somebody else where they were talking about like under Arthur Smith year after year, there's like 10 guys who have at least 10 targets or something daft. And it just seems like the way Arthur Smith envisages his offense isn't the way that feels great for fantasy football, apart from a running back position. So I like George Pickens. I think he's a fun player. And I think that that's the kind of player that, you want to take shots on at times because it's really going to make life fun. But I don't want to be taking him aggressively in best ball. I think I'd rather just, if he starts hitting the season and he's looking really good, then that's fine. I'll just compensate for it by playing him more in DFS.
Yeah, I understand that, like, projection, yada, yada. I don't agree that he's like a similar tier of these players. I think he's a similar tier in what we typically take, and I'm trying to be more mindful of that tier. And I prefer in a vacuum Tank Dell, Amari Cooper, and Christian Kirk over him for like how those offenses might break for volume and the quality of those quarterbacks and the offensive philosophy. I think, yeah, pace wise, they're going to try to play defense, running ball control. And at that point, I mean, yeah, best ball, like we saw London have like 0 target games and 4 for 40 and, praying that like, oh, maybe he just catches a touchdown. And I think George Pickens has better yak to be able to do something with that. That said, it's not fun to count on that. Lamar falling to us with Andrews here. I can feel your Ravens boner poking through your pants. What do you want to do here, bud?
I mean, I'll take Lamar. I don't think that he'd come back round again. I don't think Mark Andrews does. But look, I know how much you like drafting Rashad Bateman. So this opens up some Week 17 correlation.
You want Lamar instead of Mark?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we can always look at Isaiah Likely. We can always look at Devontae Walker, Rashad Bateman. We can always look at Nelson Aguilar if you want a real scroll the F down kind of play. But yeah. Well,
no,
what would you
got a double Houston bring back? Go ahead.
Would you have preferred to have gone Mark Andrews and then taken CJ Stroud later if he'd made it back to us?
Probably because we had Nico and Steph, but I mean,
yeah, I mean the team on the corner. The
Yeah.
team on the corner is Tank Dell, so it was like my thinking was we probably wouldn't get either of them back. We'd get Mark Andrews, which is fine. You can build something else out. We've still got T Higgins. We could still look at much more, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of fine with that. I mean, out of these teams here, 4 of the teams after us have an elite tight end already. So if the team on the turn doesn't take Mark Andrews, and then the team
They
at the
will.
9 spot, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would to pair with Tank Dell.
Dude,
But
Howard, I just got
what's
out here and I was defending the new badgeless folks not being donkey casuals, and then the 11 hole is just burying themselves in a normal room, taking running back, tight end, quarterback. Holy shit, Tom. We are seeing a self-burial live.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've spent the last couple of weeks diving into DraftKings data, and there's so many funky builds over there and things that have made me question certain aspects of best ball. But this isn't one. Like, no wide receiver in first 5. You
Power to
did.
him trying to build out a
Keon Coleman, wide receiver 1, though. Like,
oh, he's stacking. Don't call him not sharp. He's gonna dig his way out with questionable high volatility rookie receiver question marks. That's fantastic. Man, that's whiplash. I sure as shit thought like next ADP guy, what Godwin on the Godwin is like a, folks love snapping up Chris Godwin there. All
why
right.
wouldn't you? Todd Bowles called him the key to their offense the other week, so I would take.
He's
Chris
running the
Godwin.
Cooper Cup role. What are you liking here? Kittle is an elite tight end off of Andrews, but maybe spreads ourselves thin. We got Rome, who's getting a lot of Sam Sherman and ADP chasing love. Hopkins, Watson. What you like?
Yeah, I'd lean towards Roma Dunze.
Okay, I'm good with that. Gives us another quarterback out as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fine. And then it doesn't clash with the Ravens bye week either, so it kind of works nicely. I just think, yeah, like at that point, taking a rookie to pair with the 3 veterans we had, you've got Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, throwing in a rookie now. If you don't get one there, maybe Lad McConkey makes it back, and I'm never going to stop you from taking him. But it's kind of
I
the
respect
quality of
draft
rookies
capital,
goes.
so I have to take Rome over Lad more times than not, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I don't hear JJ Zacharyson in the back of my head going, from a historical standpoint, rookie quarterbacks typically don't do as well with wide receiver production, and you've got 3 solid wide receivers with awesome profiles. They're going to compete against each other and cannibalize each other, and it's going to be really hard to pay off ADP from a season-long standpoint, but we'll play a 17-week game, and maybe he's the guy in the finals, and I'm just like, well, Matt McConkey hits both of those right out the gate, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, see, I think you played Vlad McConkey side of things right. Yeah, the it just feels like the drumbeat has been kind of inevitable for him now, but there's still the whispers that they want Chark to play in the 2 wide receiver sets, but I just don't think it really matters. Like DJ Chark, we've seen what he is. Josh Palmer, I quite like Josh Palmer a bit more than you do, and I think he's a good value player, but it's more if I was taking Lad McConkey, I'd just take Josh Palmer as well and make sure I got Justin Herbert, who definitely falls at times.
Yeah, like I think if Palmer can't beat out Chark for the main 2 slot, I think it's more likely that by week 4, week 5, Lad is like taking over the 2 receiver set. Because I think that's part of the problem is people are like, oh, he's slot only. I'm like, well, he played a lot of slot and he crushes in the slot, but they mentioned right out the gate for like a month after the draft and then a month after, like right after the draft and a month out of the draft, he brings versatility. He can play inside and outside. His route running allows us to do that. We're on the clock. Stroud falls back to us, 8 picks. I think we should probably take a running back or a receiver here, though. Thoughts?
Do you like Aaron Jones? You in on him? Jordan Addison?
I think I'm Addison over Jones. I think
Yeah.
we can risk it with Addison, but I can be swayed.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron Jones is somebody I've kind of struggled with a bit. Like, I like his talent. Obviously, he crushed down the stretch last year, but at the
I
age
see him
he's
fall
at,
past ADP too often to want to
yeah.
snap pick him without a stack.
And I know in this area of the draft, you're not as in on Ramondre as I am. We've taken Najee Harris a good bit over the last few weeks, so I'm down to push this and say we've got a pretty beastly wide receiver core now.
Yeah, I like going after Addison, who I don't know if he's going to be suspended. It would be very odd for him to be suspended late in the season. I think it's far more likely that they just punt it off next year if he doesn't get suspended. And his max suspension right now, theoretically, is 3 games per the rules, but it's not clear that he can do that. And um, uh, Lawyer Fantasy Drew Davenport, I believe, is who he
Yep.
on Twitter. So we mentioned it at the top, but I'll touch on it. That just based on his 23 years of criminal lawyer experience, he doesn't think Rashee Rice is likely to be suspended this year, and if he is, he's very certain he plays 12 plus games. So he's kind of putting at like a 6-game max suspension, and his median he's kind of stuck to like 2 to 4 games max. But the longer this goes on, and the fact that the criminal case hasn't even been set yet, and the only civil case that's on the books is for December, it's far more likely that they just let the legal system. They follow the legal system, and any suspension, if at all, is discussed and decided next year. And similar with Addison, when details came out that he was asleep when he was found in his car, that from like a legal process, he can pretty easily fight. I wasn't, you can't prove I was under the influence of anything. You can just prove I was in my car. You can't prove I drove it. And that's all legalese for not likely to get hit with anything, max that the NFL can act on. So even more likely in his case, it's not a 3-game suspension, maybe 1 or 2 if the NFL wants to do anything. More likely they wait for the legal system. The legal system's not acting quickly. And he's saying the same thing that Rice was saying, like, hey, I take full responsibility for my actions, blah, 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 blah. And the NFL likes to see this fake repentance BS for PR. So, I mean, I wasn't taking a lot of Addison in the 6th round. I'm hammering him in the 7th because I think the first week he was falling into like the 7-8 turn, sometimes in the 90s. But he's not really falling past 82, 83 there most days. And so I'm very fine like catching up on a better price and stacking him as the market kind of overconfidently assumes some sort of suspension late. That would be very unusual. And early season predictions easily, counted for.
I'm fine taking Addison where we took him because I think you're in the question mark zone. Everyone around there suddenly starts being a bit more difficult to have confidence in. I know we're about to be back on the clock, and then we'll get to question in the chat
falling.
about
I don't take him a lot, but I'm easily warring over Zamir. Thoughts?
I mean, I'm definitely warring over Zamir as well. I think Zamir is going to get there on touches, but Warren's going to get there by being explosive, by being being in an offense with 2 quarterbacks who checked down at the highest rate when kept clean last year. So
they could see similar amounts of volume when it's all said and done, to be honest.
Yeah. So just touching on the question in the chat, is Addison a risk of being Jahan Dotson because he ran pure on touchdowns last year, which will likely regress in 2024? Yeah, I mean, Jordan Addison absolutely was a beast when it came to touchdowns, but the thing for me that was encouraging was that he didn't really have monstrous drop-offs when you were talking about games with Justin Jefferson on the field compared to without. Yes, he had 47.4 yards per game with Justin Jefferson, and without he had 62. It's a reasonable amount of difference, but it's like he was still getting there. He was still getting 12 PPR points per game in the games with Justin Jefferson. We know the quarterback situation was pretty ropey, so I definitely think that there's touchdown regression coming his way. But I think if he's not an absolute knucklehead, then he could take the 2nd-year leap. We talk about wide receivers, rookies, 2nd-year players taking the leap all the time. So I'm not trying to be massively aggressive on Jordan Addison. I just think that there's room for him, much as we're hoping that Jackson Smith and Jigba takes a leap. There's room for Jordan Addison to take a leap as well.
Yep, we're on the clock, and then so we've got Sutton available, Bowers, Palmer, Lockett. Do you have a lean here? I do, but I'll let you speak first.
Go on, I'll let you. I don't feel too strongly about it, so I tend to just scroll out of running backs.
I have been trying to mix in more Bowers. He's slightly after ADP, and we didn't get Andrews, so I think trying to take a shot on an elite tight end with Lamar. We also passed on Adams. We passed on Zamir. So I think from like this roster storytelling standpoint, we're saying we're kind of fading Adams. We're kind of fading Zamir. It would make sense to pull the lever on one of these guys. We don't have to, but I think someone in this offense could pop. And I don't want to ignore that Brock Bowers is like a very awesome tight end talent, questionable athleticism, which certainly like brings into question his ceiling. shock and awe as we see Caleb Williams go. So womp womp. We'll have to think about our second quarterback. But I think from a allocation roster standpoint, I'm kind of making myself, hey, if I've addressed quarterback, running back, and wide receiver pretty well going into this range, I think it's kind of egregious from like a true ceiling outcome to Wave Bowers for middling talent, touchdown regression candidate, Cortland Sutton with rookie quarterback 5, potentially manning the offense. Tyler Lockett, I'm fine with, but much like Cooper Kupp, there's concerns about his efficiencies across the board, especially for man coverage, which is the most signal for wide receivers as they age, declining every year. I think you can still see a boost with Ryan Grubb, but that's questionable. I'm questioning about Dub's, talent and standing in the and all that to say, then I better just take the guy that might be really fucking talented. Don't have to make it hard.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair on a number of levels. Kev saying in the chat, a lot of Addison's per route stuff too is diminished because he just ran a massive amount of routes, 8th most. There's a reason why we want Kev on the show next week. Smart stuff like that. Kev
Yeah, and so on the Addison thing, like I kind of had that fear too of like, hey, he really outproduced and out of expectation touchdowns. He got a really nice run out for like Jefferson being out for like that 4 or 5 game stretch where he got to operate as a wide receiver 1, but then he lost Kirk and still kind of produced. So like those things I want to keep in mind. And so I felt a little uneasy about taking him there against some of like the rookie black boxes and guys like Watson, because I do want to like acknowledge that the quarterback downgrade from a healthy Kirk Cousins to Darnold and JJ McCarthy, rookie quarterback 6. I don't want to ignore that could be a pretty big dip for the total offense, and that's most likely to affect the wide receiver 2 ancillary guys. But Hawk is going to be expected out till at least week 6 to week 7 at minimum. So I don't expect him back before week 7. I really don't, based on all the data. And I will say that, comparing Jordan Addison's rookie year to Jahan Dotson, Addison had a better target share with a better wide receiver in Jefferson. Addison 8.1% target share to Jahan Dotson's rookie 15.9. Better target rate as well, better snap share as well, like right out the gate. So he can't grow on routes, but he can grow in like development. Addison also had better air yard share, better receiving yards, and slightly better yards per route run. So like talent profile wise, he's probably more talented than Jahan, and the system's more QB friendly. But I won't be surprised if he's a little bit disappointing at ADP, but he still provides huge spike week potential in this offense if JJ McCarthy's that guy, or like, Nick Mullins, Darnold just chucking the rock.
Yes, we got Tajay Spears, Devin Singletary falling past ADP. Do you want to go with one of them or someone else?
Yeah, I'm happy smashing Tajay here.
Tajay works.
News-wise, they're continuing to say we want to mix both guys in, and the only thing that might have changed is Pollard's had the one highlight catch for like PR-wise, but otherwise, like they keep saying we want to interchange them 50-50 usage.
How much of a conviction have you got on this range from, let's say, from Brian Robinson onwards, Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, Blake Corum, Chase Brown, Tajay Spears, Devin Singletary? Like, who's the one guy out of those sort of 6 running backs that you really want in as many drafts as possible?
I'd say with news and projected workload, Chase Brown, the easy target right now. I've tried to be measured with him, considering his profile coming in is kind of shaky, kind of scary. But that said, they've said all the right things. He's done all the right things, and this backfield is very valuable. And Zach Moss is just a guy. So he's getting he's repping with the ones. I think a quote about him might be overly bullish. It was worded that he's taking the majority of reps at 1. And I think some people were like, oh my God, he's taking all of the running back 1 snaps. And it's like, no, a majority of his reps are with the ones, and a majority of the reps with Moss are with the ones. So confirming what we thought, which is he and Moss are the starters. And so if he starts getting if he gets some of the pass down work, his ceiling is really massive. But right now, Zach Moss is kind of working a lot of the pass pro stuff. So I think Chase Brown, probably the type of bet you want to make. I think Tajay and Chase, like Tajay, worse offense, but potentially more workload or better with the workload, just given what we saw in the past game. So I think those two in a tier themselves, Singletary, and then maybe Javonte.
Yeah, massive running back run after us. Jacoby Myers, AD Mitchell, Mike Williams further down.
Myers stacks. 80 Mitchell's the rookie. Do you have a lean? I'm fine jumping down to Polk or
I'd
Downs.
I'd go AD Mitchell. I think that we're kind of quite, we're in a good way. I don't think we necessarily need Jacoby Myers for a Brock Bowers team. I think, if you're saying that Jacoby Myers is also going to be useful for me, it's kind of like Devontae Adams is going to get his, and then Jacoby Myers could be fighting with Brock Bowers for those kind of meaningful, consistent targets. And given that Brock Bowers is our tight end one, we probably need him to hit in such a massive way that
Yeah.
that's where I lean with it. I think we're going to get a lot of uncertainty with the Raiders with their quarterback situation. I know I expected wrongly, it seems, Gardner Minshew to be the guy out of the gate because of the amount of money they paid him. And then the reports are saying that Aiden O'Connell was the guy who opened up training camp in the 11 on 11s as the QB1. And it seems like the team do want him to run with it. So maybe he holds it down. I'm not really a big Aiden O'Connell fan, but either way, I just don't have a huge amount of faith that that offense is going to be massively fantasy viable for more than Adams plus one more. And in this one, yeah, let's say we've already put Bowers in that slot.
Yeah, I think both quarterbacks are equally pretty shit. The unknown is that Aiden O'Connell just like takes a step forward. And the only thing that really separates him from Minshew and something that Adams mentioned, something the coaching staff mentioned, and something the metrics show is that he's more willing to just like be aggressive with deep shots and give guys a chance. He's not very good at it, but he gives guys a chance. So like the occasional deep shots to Adams, Myers, and Bowers will be something that unlocks extra value per pass for AOC. I think one thing that might make this offense more fantasy viable is if they're just in more shootouts than they think they want to be in. Like if they can't ball and defense control every game, that just volume wise, garbage time can be very like a big boon. But I do agree that like I think you want one of Jacoby or Jacoby or Bowers in a vacuum. I think the only way those guys both hit is if the unlikely mid-season trade of Adams with a coach and a staff that wants to win and wants to try to like prove the haters and the doubters wrong. So yeah, I don't normally take those guys together unless I'm deciding that I'm playing the Adams is traded or just sits out late in the season saying, hey, you didn't trade me. We're not doing very well. And I have no years beyond this. I'm not like the Keenan Allen move. I'm going to make a financial decision that like my ankle, I'm not going to play the last 3 games go into the Downs comes back around to us unless you want to nab one of these tight ends or running backs here.
I'm good with Downs. I think, the drum beat for him's been pretty steady. I know he's kind of flying up in a lot of rankings at the minute. Michael Pittman's coming down in a lot of rankings. So I'm good with Downs. Definitely think that one's works.
Downs with the Josh.
Historical anomalies asking any word on Bateman injury. Jonah Schaefer, one of the Baltimore Ravens beat reporters, spoke to John Harbaugh about it, and Harbaugh said that his sense was that it isn't serious. So fingers crossed. Otherwise, I've got a lot of bags to unpack. Pretty.
They've never lied
savagely.
about Bateman's health before anyway. So this is bullish that it's minor.
See, we're feeding into all our little ticks here. I know you get to go on that one. Good. I get to talk.
I truly hope it's minor. I just like doing a deep dive and finding out that everybody fucking lied about it last year is really tilting. As someone that had a shitload of Bateman, yeah, God, I would have definitely pumped the brakes if I knew he was not close to 90% healthy.
It'd be really upsetting if this is how it went this year. After there were reports this weekend from other beat reporters around the Ravens saying that Bateman looked smooth, he looked like he was doing well, and everything was going nicely. So, yeah, please don't
Tom,
take my Bateman
everybody's
away.
in on it, and they've just paid everybody off. This conspiracy goes all the way to the top, man.
I mean, if it was going to happen, one of the Harbaugh brothers would be involved in it.
God, yeah, and then fucking across the bay, fucking Harbaugh, the Chargers was like, I'm not aware that Gus had any surgery, and it's like you reported he had like some sort of surgery. What are you saying? You're not aware of that? Like it could be a scope. You don't have to lie to our faces though. And it's like, oh my God, we're We're already back, baby. Ah, it's so good. Lying season is upon us.
In between pulling sleds and flipping tires. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, what a man. Where are we
Yeah,
at? So what are we gonna do stacking wise now that we're down this road? We can
that's a
I've
good
I've got some
question.
ideas. We can let's take a running back or a tight end and figure out the
I was
rest.
thinking the same thing. I think I went right, but I could be convinced Henry. Do you have a lean of these guys?
No, let's go right. That works. I'm good with that. So obviously a risk this plan coming down miserably, but Danny Dimes for some week 17 correlation with the Colts, and then we can
Oh,
possibly tag on someone later as the quarterback who I was thinking stood out.
I won't be happy about it, but I'm open to it. It is disgusting. I definitely. So I will say that we have Addison, and Lamar has a week 14 bye,
Yeah.
so won't be mad if we take JJ McCarthy instead. I don't. I listened to the Coach Speak Index podcast, and I know that he's kind of like, they could be. It sounds like he either wins the starting job or he's QB3 going into week 1, and then he's got the bye week. But I think the early bye week is a good thing because I think Darnold is going to struggle, like he does. He can pop, but he will struggle. And I think at some point they're just like, we should probably see what we have with this guy, considering we did pay Justin Jefferson and we've paid a lot of other guys, and we should probably get him reps. I don't think it's likely he sits the whole damn season. Um, really and truly, I think at some point he'll be given a shot. So I'm okay taking that, especially with such a late bye week. You
Yeah.
might a 0 at the quarterback 2 spot for the first 6 to ish plus weeks, but I also think like we have Lamar, so I think we gotta just have to make the bet that he's very, very good over the course of the full season.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I was recording Fantasy Pros Rises and Falls podcast with Andrew Erickson earlier this evening, and he was saying that last week he was at the Fantasy Sports Writers Conference in Boston and got chatting to a guy who covered the Vikings pretty extensively, and his sense was that the Vikings view JJ McCarthy currently as the QB3 because they really want to just take care of him and make sure that the situation he goes into is the best
Right.
one possible. But I don't know. I mean, things change so quickly once the season starts and once
Well,
players are out there.
what happens if he's looking competent, the line doesn't look bad, and TJ Hawkinson is going to return fairly strong week 7 or 8, and Addison's not suspended? Like that changes the calculus, right? Like if they know Addison's not getting suspended or he's back after 2 or 3 games, and JJ's going to have like his full weapons at his disposal coming in week 7, week 8. I don't know that they look at that and go like, we just can't put him out there. It's like, I mean, how much better can you know for sure your team's going to be next year for him? Like this is a pretty good setup for most players.
Yep. You know where we're going here.
I do. So quarterback 2.
Well, I mean, if you want to see if Bateman falls in this room, given
Yeah, I'm
I
okay
think
with
that,
it. I'm okay with it. I will just say I don't mind pushing it in case the tag bumps him
yeah.
down because we do have Tez Walker in our back pocket. That's my only thought. I think this
So
running back here, not bad spot.
yeah,
But I'll
I'm fine with it. I think Vidal's kind of fallen a little bit with all his J.K. Dobbins talk, but I'd be down with Ray Davis.
I don't have enough Ray Davis. Let's take him. We're talking news. He's getting work with Cook kind of being away for personal reasons. He's getting work in the pass game. He's getting pop in the early down game. We didn't take Cook. We didn't take any of the weapons. I think Jacob Sanderson wrote another awesome piece about backfields he's targeting, and his bull case was like, this is a top 5 expected fantasy point backfield, even with Allen taking a lot of the rushing work in general and red zone down to down. But this looks like a ball control, run heavy, efficiency run style of offense, given how they've made the wide receiver room. And with that, if Ray Davis is someone that they decide, because Cook doesn't really get entrusted with like down to down consistency, especially like goal line and late. So, and Johnson and Lat Murray last year were dog
Yeah.
shit at it. So what happens if Ray Davis is much more efficient with those same occasional high value touches? And that seems like a nice spot to like. If we're gonna take rookies, take them in high value backfields where like even if they're not seeing a lot of the work they do see could be really valuable. So I think that's a better shot than like Vidal right now, who might be buried on the depth chart if Roman just wants to get Gus and J.K. Dobbins involved.
But yeah, and we're talking about a guy who went in the 4th round compared to a guy who went in the 6th round. And
Yeah.
I think Ray Davis, if he hadn't have been a 5-year college player, you know, which we're still getting those players whose college time was affected by COVID, then there'd be a bit more juice behind him. Yes, he's not exactly the most elite athlete, but he's patient, and those are the kind of things that can sometimes translate well to goal line backs. Danny Dimes gone, but
Ask
Rashad
if you
Bateman,
and you shall receive. I'm a man of my word. We
I mean,
pushed Rashad. I'm sorry. Rasaya Batesman. We pushed him back around the turn. So we're adding him to the squad as our wide receiver 8.
please don't push him very hard, though. We need him to stay healthy.
Please be gentle. May break if pushed hard. We have loaded up on week 14 bye weeks. The bye week bros are in shambles that we will only have 3 requisite players to start. And one of them is T. Higgins, who famously never misses time. But we're not afraid of bye weeks, Tom, because Jordan Addison has a 30-point week in his back pocket.
Big time. He'll carry us through week 14 after being fresh from that early season suspension. We'll get to a couple of bits from the chat. Where you at on Dobbins? I see him running with the ball in practice with no pads. Is the plan to give him carries as preseason? I don't know about the plan in preseason, but he's been taking sort of days off at the same time as the starters. I think he had one of the days off this weekend that some of the starters had off. He's been running through drills as the running back 1 today, despite the fact that Gus is out there, and Gus is ramping up. But the images out there, when you look at J.K. Dobbins, his left leg, the lack of muscle compared to the right leg is pretty massive. Like, I mean, you know, the fantasy doctors were all talking about how that's the last thing that you get back. So, look, I mean, I'm a Ravens fan. It's hard for me to be out on Dobbins. Like, he was such a fun prospect that I think you've kind of got to hope that there's. Yeah, I mean, I'll always be on him a little bit, but I rarely take him at ADP.
Yeah, so like short and sweet. I don't think the story from my standpoint as like the health data guy that like listens to what the doctors are saying, like this is the history they point to. Like bust after bust after bust after bust year 1, with the lone exception being Cam Akers, who had 5 of 22 games post Achilles, where he was a running back 2 plus. But he had a re-injury and then he had a falling out with his staff. So I think the measured case is that median outcome is he lacks a lot of the juice he had previously because Achilles attacks burst, and burst is famously important. The only good thing for J.K. Dobbins is he specifically had elite burst coming out as an athlete. The problem is he's not super young. I'm gonna not Davis Manic it. So he turns 25 in December. So the nice thing is sub 25 athletes have a much better outlook post ACL, post Achilles. I would expect him to start slow, especially with noticeable muscle imbalance. But if the coaching staff's going to stick with him and give him stuff late season, he could, if he continues to do what he does, he could like regain a little bit of form late and just get there on volume, especially with like passing stuff, because that helps mitigate some of that. But like he will lack some of that burst, and you'll see it in his advanced metrics. I think we slammed Tyler Conklin as our tight end too, unless you have something else you want to do here, Tom.
That works for me. I think that's nice. Yeah, it gives us a bit of week 17 correlation with Ray Davis as well. Just one last point on J.K. Dobbins. I know some people are sick of it. TKL, absolutely appreciate your point. But one more positive that you could make for J.K. Dobbins is we're talking about a quarterback who has frequently relied on checking down to pass catching running backs over the last few years in Justin Herbert. Kamani Vidal wasn't exactly a player in college who earned catches at a truly elite rate. Yeah, I mean, his receiving profile was kind of okay. He had 22 targets last year, 31 the year before, 27 the year before that, and 32 the year before that. they're solid numbers for college, but they're not exactly crazy. And if we're talking about a player who is splitting snaps with Isaiah Spiller, it's not like they've pegged him for the pass catching role. Gus Edwards is absolutely not a player who has any juice in the receiving game. So, I mean, if J.K. Dobbins just runs 4 yards and catches a dump off, that's going to be enough to be fantasy relevant in some areas. So that's my last point on J.K. Dobbins. We'll leave it there. Tyler, what are we doing at quarterback to dig ourselves out on this one?
We've got options. We've got options, Bubba. We always have options. We got some levers we can pull. I don't know who all. I know one person in chat that's in this room, so I don't know if I feel comfortable speaking openly. But I will say, with the Brees Hall team, our running backs. I'll recap as we try to figure out what we're going to do. We have a 1.582 going into the 17th round, so 2 more picks here on Underdog, half point PPR in Best Ball Mania. Lamar Jackson, Brees Hall, Jalen Warren, Tajay Spears, Jalen Wright, Ray Davis, Nico Collins, Steph Diggs, T. Higgins, Roma Dunze, Jordan Addison, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Rashad Bateman, Brock Bowers, and Tyler Conklin. So I think every position we seem fine at. I think I'd be fine with this running back room. We could add another one. I'd be fine with this tight end room. We could add another one. And at quarterback too, I think we have some options with JJ McCarthy, and then we've potentially could backstack guys like Bo or Drake, or we take a shot on a Pittsburgh guy who could stand alone. So because we have Jalen Warren. So thoughts?
I think, yeah, did JJ McCarthy just go? No, that was Luke McCaffrey. I'd be
Russell
fine
Wilson
taking
goes.
JJ McCarthy feels fine, and then let's figure out the last pick as it goes round.
I
I
like
was
it.
chatting with somebody today, and I was saying the Justin Fields situation is probably the one that I'm the most worried about in terms of getting it just completely wrong. Like, if Justin Fields starts, if Russell Wilson's calf muscle just lingers, we've seen that before with
Saw it with Joe
quarterbacks.
Burrow last year.
Exactly, and it just takes forever for them to get over. And Russell Wilson hasn't finished the season healthy in the last couple of years. Like, if Justin Fields starts 17 games, even if that is just a run first offense, like we saw 2 years ago with the Bears, it could just be really difficult for everyone to overcome. And unlike some running quarterbacks, Justin Fields isn't against checking the ball down. I've banged on and on about his stat, but like, he checked the ball down at the second highest rate when kept clean last year. So I don't feel bad about that. So maybe this is the kind of team where if Justin Fields makes it to us, we say, okay, let's shoot for some upside to compensate for JJ McCarthy lack of upside in the way that things are going around camp at the minute. But is there anyone else you'd take instead?
No, I'm glad you're brave enough. I'm not in public to admit need for compensation, but I don't disagree with that. We kind of have that little stack available, and we're just betting on 2 of the more talented young players in that offense, and just hoping that we hit their ceilings. Right, if we do that, Justin Fields goes though, so we're alleviated from making that decision. Goes to the team that was sniped on AR, and I guess passed up Stroud when it came back around to them.
Yeah,
No, they got sniped on Stroud and AR. So snipeonomics. We get sniped on our potential to do Justin Fields, but that's why we took our quarterback in the 17th round. Appreciate
yeah, definitely.
decision, Tom.
So where are we going? We've got what? I mean,
Probably
it just
tight end or running back, right?
yeah, there's not really a whole lot. Do you like any of these kind of scroll down characters for tight end position? Guys like Dawson Knox, Colby Parkinson, even Greg
I'm a
Dulcich.
Colby Parkinson guy just because news wise, since he was signed, he was mentioned as someone that pole position starting tight end. Camp has indicated both he and Allen are working with the starting team. So no clarity on who's going to be the main starter there. So Chig has gotten some awful camp news. But that said, he stacks with Tajay, and I think he's still the leader to run 70% of the snaps. I think his worst outcome is doing what he did last year, which is he does not claim more than 70 or 75% of the snaps, but he still runs a majority of those in a pass heavy offense. So I think we just take Chig. It correlates. We get him for free. I don't like any of the other bets as much unless you want to take Roshan.
No, I'm good with that. I think like I would have been looking a little further down at one of these running backs who maybe don't get drafted every time, guys like Will Shipley, Deneric Prince, but
Yeah, I
I'm
think it would have been
completely
Greg
fine with
third
Shipley.
leg for me, who's getting a little bit of steam as like somebody that's healthy and running, but I think I can safely say Tennessee's more likely to be a better offense, scoring wise, and I also feel better about Chig's role on the team versus Dolchich, who I mean, you're hoping he's figured out his hamstring issues because they were worse than what Watson's were the last 2 years. But it also wasn't Peyton's guy. Peyton didn't draft Dolchich. So I think routes wise, I won't be surprised if Chig still runs more routes, even if Greg is healthy. Greg probably does more with that, but I don't know that it's going to be high value stuff because this looks like a low A dot scam type of offense where the running backs and uh, the wide receiver one eat, and you just hope other guys make the most out of it. So I think we kind of got bailed out by pushing tight end late because we got some fallers who are presumably the starters running at least 60 to 75% of the routes.
Yeah, and with Brock Bowers, I don't really mind leaning into free tight end builds more often because
Same.
unless you're doing the quick double tap, there's still going to be question marks over his role. I know he's been balling out in
Yeah.
practice. I know he had like these multiple touchdown practices that everybody was cooing over, but it just feels like the range of outcomes for him is enough that maybe he starts very slow and really just goes off as the season goes on. And having two other guys paired with him is completely fine if you can get away with it. So, Tyler, I'll let you finish naming that and then we can recap that. And of course, take a look at the team at the 11th spot who went with quite an interesting approach. We'll definitely see that in a moment. But looking back at the draft, do you feel like when I said to go with Lamar, we should have gone with Andrews first? That felt like probably one of the bigger pivot points within this draft.
I mean, looking back, we would have had Stroud as the option to us, and he's kind of been available there. But no, like no way to know that for sure in a room that chaotic. So like the 2v2 there would have been it would have been Stroud double stacked with a Mark Andrews bring back. In a vacuum, I like that more. But we end up getting Lamar skinnied with Rashad with two Houston bringbacks. And I don't mind that at all because that's playing into the same uh, game script of the playoffs last year where Lamar got there with 100 yards rushing, two rushing touchdowns, and no one else on Baltimore really paid off. And I know Andrews wasn't there, but I'm just saying, like, he can run wild and do it on his own, much like Allen can. So I don't
Yeah.
mind going after his cheaper pieces with the bring back. And then, Lamar projects better median than Stroud does, and Stroud has to get there with his pass catchers. We kind of made that bet. So yeah, I might take that back to get that stack and you see what goes on. But taking Lamar there allowed us to push quarterback two quite a bit, which I tend to do in a vacuum anyway. Um, so not getting Stroud, but taking like maybe the next version of Stroud, which is a rookie quarterback that could way outproduce his draft capital late because he's just in an awesome system right away and he's just competent. Obviously, Stroud, much better profile, much better odds to do that. But the NFL is full of chaos, and we've seen Nick Mullins be a top 12 quarterback in that system. So if McCarthy's on the field, I struggle to see how he's not, top five, top in the top 15 fantasy wise if everybody's healthy, just because that offense does cook. And at the end of the season, if it's healthy Hawkinson, healthy Addison, healthy Jefferson, he's got a 30-point ceiling in his wheelhouse. So I don't mind arbitrage Stroud. But the way we built this team, yeah, probably go back and take Stroud. But I like Lamar after value, and it forced a unique team for us, to be honest. And I think the way we built it out
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's definitely quite different to a lot of the teams that we've built. I mean, like I'm always quite conscious of how many teams I'm building very similarly at this point in the off season. And anytime I take Jalen Warren, sometimes I feel like I start hitting a groove about that part of the draft and taking certain players. But the running back room looks different. I like the build of explosive guys in Jalen Warren, Tajay Spears, paired with rookies in Jalen Wright, Ray Davis, but against a workhorse in Brees Hall. If Brees Hall isn't RB1 in every single week apart from the bye week, then either the other guys are going nuclear or we did something wrong anyway. But the wide receivers need to hit to the level that they're filling the flex each and every week.
But I think we did a good job of, trying to go after high scoring offenses or, young guys who could grow into more roles or just provide huge spikes as leverage off of the other guys too. We didn't take AR, but we have AD Mitchell. So Lamar is a guy that can go toe to toe with Allen, with Hurts, with AR, weekly ceiling wise. And we kind of double tap. We get like little mini correlations with AD Mitchell and Josh Downs. I'll do a final rating of the team to really service the dozens of audio listeners out there. But we appreciate everyone that tunes in live or after the fact or re-listens. You might be doing yard work. We understand. Our fans tend to touch grass, touch ass, score, and finish the job in every walk of life they are. That's why it's called the sanctuary, maybe. Lamar Jackson, JJ McCarthy, as Tom mentioned, running backs Brees Hall, Jalen Warren, Tajay Spears, Jalen Wright, Ray Davis, wide receiver Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Roma Dunze, Jordan Addison, AD Mitchell, Josh Downs, Rasiah Batesman, and please be healthy. And at tight end, Brock Bowers, Tyler Conklin, and Chig back to being free, baby, Okonkwo. So I think this is good. This is a unique team for us. It's a unique team for me. But I like a lot of the players we took. I like a lot of the mini stacks. We get double without the quarterback in Houston, double without the quarterback in Indianapolis. But again, we paired it with an elite rushing quarterback who can meet and exceed their quarterbacks, and we take fun shots elsewhere. So I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out.
Yeah, I really like this one. I think it's a fun team, got plenty of legs. Definitely interested to see how it goes. Can we spin over the team at team 11?
Absolutely.
And see, as
Folks,
TKL says,
you've been dying to see what the 11 hole did to themselves. I'm so glad it's a 3 quarterback build. Delightful. So I'm just gonna do it from the draft board because I think the people need to know how this disaster unfolded. They start with Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyron Williams. Then they go Sam Laporta and Josh Allen. Next turn, they do Anthony Richardson and Keon Coleman. Ooh, we got a stack brewing. Very spicy. Does he know what he's doing? Is he going to unbury himself and unfuck this team from the dead? Double taps Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, 2 of my least favorite older guys in the deliciously delightful running back glory hole. But hey, they've got ceilings. What are you going to do? But I think if you took Gibbs and Kyron there, maybe go for more exciting upside shots. But oh well. Then they stack Romeo Dobbs and with Aaron Jones, but they handcuff Kyron with Blake Corum, which is phenomenal. That's just art, baby. Painting a Jackson Pollock. Jalen Polk, one of my favorite clicks in that range. Very fun. Dalton Schultz, unstacked for reasons, but when you get Sam Laporta, you got to go after Dalton Schultz, who's going to be the 4th target on his team if everyone's healthy. Gets the bring back with Malachi Corley ahead of ADP, who's having a pretty rough camp. Goes after Ricky Pearsall,
injured.
Is expected, or he just got activated, but yeah, just had a hamstring injury with no outs, with Ayuk kind of still in the fold, but they're at least rookies, Tom. So I guess he's just going after rookies. Takes Marvin Mims, who bit of tidbit news right before we went live. Ben Albright of the Denver Broncos did mention that right now in camp, the starting 3 receivers are Sutton, Mims as the Z or the flanker, and then Reynolds. Seems like Franklin's kind of buried on the depth chart right now as the wide receiver 6. Obviously, early in camp, I will want to note that I dug through his replies, and he noted that in OTAs, Franklin was running behind, seemingly, 7th round pick Vele, who's a 26-year-old rookie that the Broncos drafted. So that's that. Ben Sennett needed a 3rd tight end, obviously, when you have Laporta and Schultz. Then takes Drake May to stack up with Polk. And Isaac, currently hurt with a hamstring as well. Garendo. One of the oddest teams I've ever seen because it is a 3-6-3. So he's like, hey, last BBM winner did it. I got to do it. But worse, I will stack. I will correlate. I will say fuck all to ADP and draft allocation, though, early and often. what a team. What a team, Tom. I'm speechless. That's 6 receivers of Keon Coleman, Romeo Dobbs, Jalen Polk, Malachi Corley, Ricky Pearsall, and Marvin Mims is certainly a room.
It's a dynasty rebuild roster. That's dynasty rebuild wide receiver room. It's you've got a whole lot of picks coming in 2025. You've got some really nice picks coming in 2026. But right now, you're just trying to figure out what way you're going to tear that room down.
Oh, Tom, I
So
forgot. Underdog is tight end premium, so he's cooking with Sam Laporta and Dalton Schultz.
yeah, and halfback premium with Ben Sinnott.
And you know what? We're talking all this shit. This team is going to somehow advance, and it's because that's chaos, baby.
And we'll never talk about it ever again.
We will bury this episode just like he buried his team in expected value.
But what we will talk about, though, is the summer giveaway. $100 in cold hard cash, 12 months free membership to all our premium content, $25 voucher for our merchandise from our merch store. Simply subscribe, leave comments on videos. Each comment is an entry into the draw. Tyler, before we get out of here, I know you've got another team to pull up and have a look at, but I know you're also going to be doing more streaming as well. You want to tell the people where that's going to be?
I think I don't know if I have something on the books for this week on other channels, but I will just note that I think I was totally catching me blind. I was really into this other team. I am streaming with Best Ball Guy on his channel every other Thursday. I don't know if we're doing every Thursday. I have to double check the tape. But we had a really good time last week on his channel with joined by PPR Tyler. Sounds like we're going to do that more going forward. Really, if you like home league type of like busting each other's balls, roasting each other's teams, and roasting the chat's teams mercilessly, that's the stream for you. So we do stream over there. Guest spot wise, I don't have anything booked yet. Neil Orfield or Davis Maddock haven't hit me up for a last minute spontaneous stream, but I will be planning to do I've really been enjoying the Sunday best ball streams, which I did yesterday, had a lot of fun talking through camp news and notes going into this week, as well as drafting a BBM, solid BBM, if I do say so myself. And so I'm going to keep that going, whether you or our guests join us. Sunday best ball brunch is here to stay until week 1. So join us on Sundays and check that out, because that's where we might be doing more fun giveaways as we do the road to 3K, but that's also where you're going to catch me in a really good mood, usually doing whatever, fuck all, and several teams. So if you want to jump into those live rooms as well. But yeah, let's check out this team 3 here with James joining us in the chat. Does Brock Purdy, Tua, Danny Dimes? By the way, no need to apologize. You saved us from ourselves. Anytime I don't have to add dimes without neighbors, I will not make a fuss. That O-line is looking rough in camp, and he's missing everything deep, seemingly. So not mad about it. Josh Jacobs, Zamir White, Gus Edwards, Algier, J.K. Dobbins. I'm sorry, J.K. Dustbins, Tyreek Hill, Debo Samuel, Neighbors, Pickens, McConkey, Baker, Luke McCaffrey, Hyatt, Kittle, Musgrave. That's a fun team. Some fun stacks.
Yeah.
QB1 to wide receiver 1 every step of the way. Very cromulent running back room of Jacob, Zamir, Gus, Algier, and JK. So kind of just taking 2 cheap shots at a potentially high value backfield. I dig it. This is fun. What do you think? He stole a lot of my favorite players, to be honest. So I'll hold that against him.
No, I really like it. I think it's definitely got a lot of players that we like drafting. I think it's got that right blend of high upside players as well as some rookies. I think the stacks are fantastic. And if I had to look at one team in this draft to say that's a better team than ours, maybe it's that one. Possibly
it would be, but he also took like
Josh Jacobs, just
4 trapdoors. You took 4 trapdoors, brother. Josh Jacobs, trapdoor. Zamir White, trapdoor. Gus Edwards, trapdoor. J.K. Dustbins. It's not even a trapdoor at this point. You're just stepping on a rake. But no, fun team.
So we are going to get out of here on that. But remember, do leave a comment after the video has finished on the channel. I will be back on Wednesday. DraftKings show, as usual. Put out a load of data on DraftKings. If you draft over there, make sure you go and check out that video. There's stuff there that you're just not going to find from anyone else when it comes to DraftKings. And I'll be drafting 5 teams at once this week. So going to be a fun one. Definitely less less smart drafts, more fun drafts, and then over the course of the week, we've got more redraft content coming your way before Tyler rounds out the week on Sunday. Definitely a good time to be subscribed to Fantasy Sanctuary. Appreciate everyone in the chat tonight. We will catch you again very soon. See you soon.